The Mediterranean sun blazes over Syracuse, 287 BCE, casting long shadows across a city alive with the clatter of trade and the whispers of war. Ships groan in the harbor, their sails snapping in the salty breeze, while merchants haggle over olives and philosophers debate the nature of the cosmos. Amid this vibrant chaos, a young man kneels in the dirt, his fingers tracing spirals in the sand. His name is Archimedes, and he's about to change the world with a deceptively simple idea, a machine that makes water defy gravity. Syracuse, a jewel of the Greek world, pulses with energy. Nestled on Sicily's eastern coast, it's a crossroads of cultures, Greek, Egyptian, Persian, where ideas collide like waves against the rocky shore. But beneath the city's brilliance lies a problem as old as civilization itself. Water. The fields beyond the city walls wither under the relentless sun. Irrigation is a grueling task, with farmers hauling buckets from streams or digging crude channels that often run dry. The land is thirsty, and Syracuse's survival hangs in the balance. Enter Archimedes, barely in his 20s, his mind a whirlwind of numbers and shapes. He's no ordinary thinker. By day, he ponders the mysteries of circles and levers. By night, he dreams of machines that could tame nature itself. The story goes that Archimedes was tasked, perhaps by King Hiero II, Syracuse's ruler, to find a better way to water the fields. The king, a patron of innovation, knew his city's prosperity depended on its crops. Archimedes, ever the problem solver, took to the challenge with a fervor that bordered on obsession. Picture the moment. A dusty workshop, tools scattered across a wooden bench, the air thick with the scent of cedar and sweat. Archimedes holds a rough wooden model, a spiral carved inside a tight cylinder, tilted at an angle. He places it in a shallow stream, grips the handle and turns. Water, trapped in the spiral's pockets, rises with each rotation, spilling into a trough above. The crowd, farmers, craftsmen, maybe even the king himself, watches in stunned silence. One turn, two turns, and the impossible happens. Water flows uphill. Gasps turn to cheers. This is no mere tool, it's a miracle, a defiance of the gods' own rules. But what drove Archimedes to this pulse-pounding moment? He wasn't just a tinkerer, he was a polymath whose mind danced between mathematics and mechanics. He saw the world as a series of puzzles, each waiting to be solved with elegance. The screw wasn't his only invention. Stories tell of war machines that hurled stones at Roman ships and mirrors that set sails ablaze, but it was his most enduring. Unlike his catapults, which roared with spectacle, the screw was quiet, practical, a workhorse born from a mind that saw beauty in simplicity. This wasn't just a local triumph. Syracuse's fields bloomed, its granaries filled, and word of the screw spread beyond Sicily's shores. Archimedes had given humanity a tool to conquer drought, to turn barren land into abundance. But the man himself, he shrugged it off, more interested in the geometry of spirals than the cheers of farmers. Little did he know his diversion would outlive empires, feeding millions for centuries to come. Let's roll up our sleeves and dive deeper to unravel the magic of Archimedes' screw. At its core, it's a marvel of simplicity, a helix or spiral, encased in a snug cylinder, tilted at an angle and turned by hand, animal or water wheel. Water pools in the spiral's chambers, and each rotation lifts it higher, like buckets on an endless staircase. It's so intuitive you'd think it was obvious, but in 287 BCE, it was nothing short of revolutionary. The physics behind it are elegant. The screw exploits gravity and geometry in a delicate dance. When tilted, say at 20 to 30 degrees, the helix creates sealed pockets that trap water at the lower end. As you crank the handle, these pockets move upward, carrying the water against gravity's pull until it spills out at the top. Modern engineers have measured its efficiency at 60 to 80%, a staggering feat for a device built with wood and bronze. No pumps, no pistons, just a spiral and a spark of genius. Building it, though, was no small task. Imagine Archimedes in his workshop, surrounded by the tools of Syracuse's shipwrights. The helix had to be carved with precision, its curves smooth to ensure a tight seal with the cylinder. Too loose, and water would leak. Too tight, and friction would grind the machine to a halt. The wood, likely cedar or oak, was seasoned to resist rot, shaped with chisels and adzes honed to razor sharpness. The cylinder's angle was critical, too steep, and water would spill backward, too shallow, and the screw would churn sluggishly, wasting effort. Archimedes, ever the perfectionist, likely spent weeks tweaking prototypes, cursing under his breath as water sloshed out, then grinning when he finally got it right. The materials were simple but ingenious. Syracuse's craftsmen, skilled in building galleys that braved the Mediterranean, knew how to work wood and bronze. They sealed the cylinder with pitch, a tar-like substance used on ships, to make it watertight. Some screws were even wrapped in leather or cloth to reduce leaks. The crank, turned by hand or tethered to an ox, was the engine transforming muscle into motion. It was low-tech, yes, but it was a masterpiece of practical engineering. Think about the farmers who first used it. They'd spent their lives hauling water in buckets, their backs bent under the weight of survival. Now, with a few turns of a handle, they could irrigate entire fields. The screw didn't just lift water, it lifted hope, turning back-breaking labor into a task as simple as winding a rope. Archimedes had taken a universal problem, moving water, and solved it with a design so timeless it's still used today. Water is the lifeblood of civilization, and Archimedes' screw pumped it straight into the heart of empires. By 250 BCE, the screw had spread beyond Syracuse, carried by traders and engineers to the fertile banks of the Nile. In Egypt, where the river's floods could drown or starve a village in a single season, the screw was a godsend. It lifted water from the Nile's muddy channels into canals, turning desert into farmland. The Fayum region, a sprawling oasis southwest of Alexandria, was the screw's proving ground. Here, farmers used it to divert water into fields of wheat, barley, and flax. The results were staggering. Archaeological records suggest a 30% increase in arable land within decades. Villages that once scraped by now sent surplus grain to Alexandria, the bustling capital of the Ptolemaic Empire. The screw didn't just feed families, it fueled a metropolis, turning Egypt into the breadbasket of the Mediterranean. Picture an Egyptian farmer, his feet sinking into the Nile's silt, watching water spiral upward through a wooden screw. His children, once gaunt from lean harvests, now play in fields green with promise. The screw was more than a tool, it was a lifeline, a bridge between scarcity and abundance. Its impact rippled outward, strengthening trade networks that stretched from Greece to India. Rome, ever the adopter of Greek ingenuity, embraced the screw by the 1st century CE. In the dusty mines of Spain's Rio Tinto, screws pumped water out of deep shafts, allowing workers to extract silver and copper that minted Rome's coins. Imagine the scene: torchlit tunnels, the rhythmic creak of wooden screws, and the glint of ore that powered an empire's economy. In aqueducts, screws lifted water to cities perched on hills, ensuring baths and fountains flowed. The screw's versatility, lifting water up or draining it down, made it indispensable, a silent partner in Rome's grandeur. But it wasn't just about empires. For every Roman senator sipping wine in a villa, there were countless farmers and miners whose lives were eased by the screw. It was a democratizing force, bringing water to those who needed it most. From the Nile's banks to Rome's mines, Archimedes' invention wove itself into the fabric of daily life, a quiet hero that fed millions. Why isn't Archimedes' screw a household name? It's as pivotal as the wheel, yet it lingers in obscurity, a footnote in the annals of history. The answer lies in the man himself and the world he lived in. Archimedes was a paradox, a brilliant mind who loved pure mathematics but couldn't resist solving practical problems. To him, the screw was a trifle, a mechanical toy, compared to the elegant proofs of geometry that consumed his soul. In ancient Greece, thinkers like Archimedes prized ideas over inventions. Philosophers were celebrated, engineers were craftsmen, their work deemed vulgar by the elite. Archimedes straddled this divide, but his heart lay with circles and spheres. He once said, according to legend, that his machines were mere diversions of geometry at play. The screw, for all its brilliance, was a side project, overshadowed by his theorems and war machines. Then there's the problem of attribution. Ancient texts rarely gave credit where it was due. By the time Roman architect Vitruvius described the screw in 30 BCE, Archimedes' name was barely mentioned. Over centuries, the device became a generic tool, its origins blurred. By the Middle Ages, it was simply the water screw, divorced from the man who dreamed it up. History, it seems, has a short memory for quiet miracles. Archimedes' death didn't help. In 212 BCE, during the Roman siege of Syracuse, he was cut down, legend says, while sketching diagrams in the sand, muttering, "Don't disturb my circles." The Romans, awed by his war machines, mourned his loss, but his practical inventions faded into the background. The screw, reliable and unassuming, was too ordinary to be celebrated. It worked so well it became invisible, like the air we breathe. This is a story of neglect, of a genius whose practical gifts were overshadowed by his theoretical brilliance. It's a reminder that history favors the spectacular, catapults, aqueducts, colosseums, over the humble tools that sustain us. But for every farmer who fed his family, every miner who kept Rome's coffers full, the screw was a hero. Archimedes deserved better, and so does his invention. The fall of Rome in 476 CE could have buried the screw in history's dust, but instead it found new life. As empires crumbled, knowledge traveled, carried by scholars and traders across the Mediterranean. By the 8th century, Islamic engineers in the Middle East were refining Archimedes' design, using it to irrigate the fertile crescent of Mesopotamia. In Baghdad, the heart of the Islamic Golden Age, the screw turned arid plains into orchards, feeding a civilization that rivaled Rome at its peak. The Banu Musa brothers, 9th century polymaths, documented a screw-like device in their Book of Ingenious Devices. They added gears and water wheels, making it more efficient, and their designs spread across the Islamic world. From Damascus to Cordoba, screws lifted water to fields and fountains, a testament to the era's blend of Greek heritage and innovative spirit. These engineers didn't just preserve Archimedes' idea, they enhanced it, proving that genius knows no borders. In medieval Europe, the screw found a new home. By the 12th century, it was draining swamps in the Netherlands, laying the foundation for the polders that would define the nation. Imagine Dutch farmers, their boots sinking into marshy soil, watching screws pull water from flooded fields. Entire villages rose from reclaimed land, their windmills and screws working in harmony. In England and France, screws powered mills, grinding grain with the same relentless efficiency. This was a time of rediscovery. Islamic scholars had preserved Greek texts, including Archimedes' works, and translated them into Arabic and later Latin. As Europe emerged from the Dark Ages, the screw spread, its origins murky, but its impact undeniable. It was a bridge between cultures, a tool that united East and West in a shared quest for survival. Yet, even as it transformed landscapes, it remained anonymous. Its creator a ghost in the machine. Now let's leap to 2025. You'd think a 2,300-year-old invention would be a museum piece, but Archimedes' screw is alive and well, humming in fields and factories across the globe. In rural India, farmers crank hand-powered screws to irrigate rice paddies, a low-cost lifeline where electricity is scarce. In sub-Saharan Africa, NGOs install screws to bring water to drought-stricken villages, transforming lives with a design older than Christianity. In the Netherlands, modern screws, now sleek steel spirals, drain flood-prone lowlands, a nod to the country's medieval roots. But the screw's reach goes further. In hydropower plants, Archimedean turbines generate clean energy, their blades spinning in reverse to harness water's flow. A 2018 study found these turbines achieve 75% efficiency, rivaling modern designs while requiring minimal maintenance. It's a sustainable marvel, a whisper from the past in a world racing toward the future. Why does the screw endure? It's simple, cheap, and reliable. In developing nations, where complex pumps break down or require fuel, the screw is a godsend. It can be built locally, repaired with basic tools, and powered by human hands or a donkey's tread. In the West, it's a darling of green engineering, a symbol of low-tech solutions to high-tech problems. Picture a farmer in Mali turning a screw to water his crops, or an engineer in Germany tweaking a turbine for a rural grid. The screw connects them across time and space, a thread of ingenuity that binds humanity. Consider a case study from Ethiopia. In 2020, a village in the Amhara region installed screws to irrigate communal fields. Crop yields doubled, children stayed in school instead of hauling water, and the community built a surplus to sell at market. This isn't just data, it's a story of hope, of families no longer bound by the rhythm of drought. Archimedes' screw, born in a Greek workshop, still lifts lives in ways its creator could never have imagined. As we close this journey, let's pause to reflect. Archimedes' screw isn't just a machine, it's a testament to the power of curiosity. It fed empires, reclaimed land, and powered progress, yet it remains a shadow in the spotlight of history. Why? Because it's too simple, too reliable, too ordinary. But that's where its brilliance lies. Archimedes didn't chase fame, he chased truth. His screw is a reminder that the greatest innovations aren't always the loudest. They're the ones that work, day after day, century after century. Imagine Archimedes today, watching his screw spin in a modern field. Would he be proud, or would he, true to form, dismiss it as a trifle and return to his equations? As a scientist, I'm struck by his humility, his relentless drive to solve problems others couldn't even see. In an age of climate crises and resource scarcity, the screw's lessons resonate: simplicity, sustainability, resilience. It's a call to action, to value the quiet heroes, the unassuming tools that keep the world turning. So let's give Archimedes his due. Share his story, tell your friends about the spiral that fed the world. Celebrate the unsung, the overlooked, the brilliant minds who built our present but were forgotten by our past. And if this tale stirred your curiosity, hit like, share, and subscribe to Obscure Minds. Together we'll keep uncovering the forgotten geniuses who shaped our world, one spiral at a time.